when that dirt moved, well, she took that grubbing hoe and killed the mole. Hey, tell you something else about my grandmother. You didn't buy chickens, you raised your own. And when a chicken would lay a bunch of eggs, and then the hen would set on the eggs, and you just left that alone. And a chicken makes a different noise when she's setting. It's funny. She'll go, cack, 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 cack. Well, when she's setting on a bunch of eggs to have little baby chickens, she goes. And so she went to the hen house one day, and that one chicken was off of the nest, and a chicken shouldn't stay off of his eggs very long, her eggs very long. And so Grandma looked to see what was wrong, and a black snake had got in the nest and was swallowing the eggs whole.
What'd she do?
She killed it, took the eggs out, and put them back in the chicken.
And?
And they
She took the eggs out of the snake?
Uh-huh.
That's hardcore.
Yeah. She just took something and killed that snake.
Cut its head off, slit it open,
Yeah.
pulled the eggs out.
Yeah. And here that snake was laying.
A gentle kill.
And that snake, a bump, and then snake, and a bump, and snake, and a bump. And she just cut its head off and took the eggs out, put them back in under the chicken. And
Did they all survive?
Yeah.
No kidding. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah. And, people did things like that and didn't think nothing of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It was part of...
We had in the corner right through the door, remember the door that went from the kitchen to
the parlor?
out on the screen-in porch
Or,
and then
yeah.
outside. The screen door was here.
To the right was the cellar.
No, you're going the wrong direction. It was to go out in the yard.
Well, to the left you went out in the yard, and to the right you went to the cellar.
Yeah.
All right, you're right. I know what you're talking about.
Between that screen door and in the corner of the porch, there was a thing hanging down from the ceiling, and you had made it, of course, yourself, and it had a hook here and a hook here, and
put your pigs and chickens on it.
And we had a bucket and a dipper in that bucket, and it was at about eye level, and I was a great big girl before I knew
You still are.
that everybody in the world didn't, it was time to go to bed, and you went out on the porch and got a dipper and got some water, and then walked out in the yard and peed, and come back in, went to bed. And I thought, I just had never questioned it. I thought everybody in the world did that. Took a drink, went out in the yard and peed.
Replenished?
Huh?
You replenished?
Yeah.
Evacuated?
Yeah.
And then went to sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
good.
almost all old people had a slop jar sitting beside their bed, and it had a lid on it, and so they have to get up in the middle of the night. Well, they didn't want to go outside in the dark
It's a slop jar.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe I've never had a band called Slop Jar.
Yeah,
That would be
they
amazing.
were white, and real rich people had a small one.
That's where you're too poor to have a pot to piss in?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, exactly.
But hey.
There was people that did,
Wow.
that didn't. But the real rich people had a ceramic
Right.
pot.
Exactly.
And it wasn't as big. It was about this big. And our slop jars was about this big with
Well,
a handle and a lid on it.
were you highfalutin then?
Not if you had a slop jar, but
You had a bigger pot to piss in.
yeah. And then the
Imagine that being like the status of like someone having a nice car or something
yeah,
at one point in time.
yeah,
Just how good's your piss pot?
yeah. If you had a ceramic or a metal.
Human beings are amazing, aren't they?
And if you had a ceramic pot, you were pretty well to do. And
No different than a bird making a nest.
and McQuarters, two of my uncles married two of the McQuarter girls. And
Well, I
the
heard
other one, she married and divorced and come back home and never did marry again. So she was at the home place. Well, they were pretty well to do, the McQuarters were. And anyhow, old Miss McQuarter, I could still remember her. You called everybody Old Miss, you know, and old Miss McQuarter. She was a kind of a little woman. She was smaller than her three daughters, and
You have a great night, buddy.
you couldn't figure out he was going home. He had to tell you.
He always does. It's kind of cute.
And so anyhow, we would go down and visit old Miss McQuarter and Minnie. And Minnie's two sisters was my aunts by marriage instead of by blood. And so anyhow, old Miss McQuarter, she had dressed like everybody else's, you know, just hang loose and hung down to about her ankles. And Ted, she had her dress, and right here, look, right here was the pocket. The pocket, and that's where she kept her snuff and her tobacco. No, it was her tobacco because she smoked a clay pipe, and she kept her clay pipe down there and her tobacco, and she'd sit there by the fireplace, and that's the only thing they had. They had a beautiful home, and and she would just, you know, it's handy just to reach down there and put her clay pipe in her mouth and light, and she'd take a piece of wood and take the
Ambers.
no, the fireplace.
You almost killed the dog.
She did.
Dog was like, holy cow.
You
No.
and anyhow, Mama, you know, was a teetotaler. And when she was a little girl, she would be at school and she loved school. And they'd be playing or something, and here she could see her grandpa riding his big fine horse. and he'd come to school, and her and Mary just hated that so bad because they knew that they was coming and their grandpa was coming and getting them out of school, and they wasn't any older than Lily, and he would, put them on behind him on the horse and take them back to his house, and they'd have to empty their grandma's slop jar and.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
People, you think your life is bad.
Yeah.
You had
And
to
her
ride a
just
horse.
girl.
You had to ride a horse for probably an hour to empty your grandma's slop jar.
And feed her and fix her. And of course, they were well-to-do.
These kids today complain about.
What if they had?
You had to ride a horse.
Why if Lily had to get up every day and empty my slop jar?
Well, what if she had to get on an animal and ride through the ridges?
No big deal. They did
But I
that.
know, but I mean, to go do it. It's not like you're walking next door.
Yeah, that's so.
It was a
But
huge
anyhow,
effort. It was like getting groceries.
That's not the story. So anyhow, and Mama just that bothered her till she was 104 years old, and so anyhow, they had a parlor,
He's riding his dirt bike in the background.
and yeah,
This is so good.
and so they had a parlor,
Mm-hmm.
and Grandpa would go into the parlor, and then come out and lock the door. And so Mama kept wondering what that was all about. So she went outside, I guess when she emptied the stop jar, and she got a rock and carried over to the window, and she stood on the rock and looked in, and he had a quart of moonshine sitting at the end of the fancy couch. So she raised the window and crawled in and got her some moonshine. And listen, we're talking about she was in grade school. She was in grade school, and her and Mary found out that they could crawl in the window and get them a little taste too, like their grandpa did.
This is why they invented Kings Island. To keep kids from crawling in windows.
Yeah.
To get on their own roller coaster.
No, I think it was equal riding a horse.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I try not to make real long videos, and we're hitting 13 minutes.
Oh, I thought you was looking at something.
That's because you've been hanging out with my kids. They stare at their phones.
Oh, and by the way, you only had one pair of shoes, and the only way you got them is
if,
your older sister.
and you had to piss in them for a while.
And your older sister outgrew them, and then you got them. Well, the only place you could wear shoes was to church. And so they would carry their shoes, and the whole family, and they'd walk to church till they got to the last turn in the road, and then they'd put their shoes on and walk around the curve and go to church. And then when church was over, they'd come back and walk around the curve and take
Take
their
your shoes off and
carry them home.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've had a theory for a while that you really do need to be barefooted. Like people go, you get worms and all the.
That's a bunch of crap.
Well, well,
I mean, you do get worms.
well, yeah, but you also there's an energy. There's a synergy. Not hippie-ish, but really there is a synergy with the earth. And it helps you become more of a part of it.
Saves your shoes too.
Well, yeah. Well, keep buying. So I found these in a garbage can, and they're worth over $100 from what I understand.
Maybe somebody had stolen or something.
Well, I do have a suspicion of that too. I know I didn't, and I know they were going in the dumpster, so I just repurposed them.
About, Paul's 100.
Well, hold on, hold on. We gotta. We can tell other stories, just not on this one. And God bless you all.